afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson.
And we are glad that you are back with us again. Deborah, at the taping of this show, I can visualize the turkeys running around in the field right now as they're preparing to be shipped to the grocery store for people to have a happy Thanksgiving. And I just want to let you know, even though you're seeing this after Thanksgiving, we hope that you had a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And so
we're back into the Sunshine Law. Just when you thought you were out,
right,
they pulled you back in.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we have well chronicled on the program, you know, Deborah and I really take the sunshine laws of the state of Florida to heart. We've become an advocate of the sunshine law, and whether it's in our county or in other counties or in other places of the state.
Yes. Or in our region.
In our region, we are going to be a voice of the people. Those of you who believe with us that transparency and accountability, where your tax dollars are spent, is important, we're there for you. And
which brings us to Florida's Great Northwest.
Well, and you know, we're not completely satisfied with everything at Team Santa Rosa, but we have the ruling now.
Yes.
They have to follow Chapter 119,
right,
which is open records. They have to follow Chapter 286, which is open meetings.
right.
Our efforts has made sure that you, the public, will have open access to Team Santa Rosa. So,
and the important thing is that the state attorney's opinion states that they step in the shoes of government,
right,
which is something they tried to get out from under
absolutely
for the longest time.
And you know, we certainly, Deborah and I, and of course Alan was involved, several other people. You know, we're very proud to say that we've cleared up the gray area at Team Santa Rosa. It has been ruled upon. Barbara Peterson, the First Amendment Foundation, believes that this ruling will reverberate through the state of Florida. And so, with that said, we find another organization, which is
Florida's Great Northwest.
Florida's Great Northwest.
Which is a bigger fish in the economic development nonprofit scene.
Right.
This is a regional entity.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, as you'll remember, we laid out to you that, you know, your tax dollars are converted into money for Enterprise Florida up at the state level, and Enterprise Florida, there's another layer, a tier of economic development folks that aren't even attached to a county. Right. They just they're just nebulous. They just float around in the atmosphere, absorbing
tax dollars.
Tax dollars. And now we found Florida's Great Northwest.
Yes.
And they are a economic development organization of sorts.
Yes.
And we always have to do this,
right,
ladies and gentlemen. Economic development,
right,
who covers 16 counties.
Yes.
Which is kind of northwest Florida.
Yes. They've been closely associated with the St. Joe Company, which, as you know, is doing all kinds of development out there in the Panama City to St. Joe area.
Right. And we've kind of here's where we are with this. We've gathered some information, and right out of the gate here, the Bay City Herald, the Bay Herald,
Panama City Herald.
The Panama City Herald, I'll get it right here, Matt, I apologize. Matt Dixon did a great job. He's been looking at this organization for a while, and they kind of wrote a story about it, and there was a lot of interest. So they came back.
And what they said was, well, the state attorney says Team Santa Rosa is subject to Sunshine Law. Well, what about Florida's Great Northwest? They're taking in all kinds of tax dollars in the form of grants and I assume direct contributions,
right,
etc. They should be subject as well.
Right. Actually, what they did in their story was they said, we really would like to encourage a state rep or a state senator to get
Right.
involved in this and get an opinion.
And what we should sort of clarify this right here. What it looks like Florida's Great Northwest does, in part, is they take in money, primarily from what we can tell tax dollars, and then they sort of recycle them out to various entities. We don't know what the criteria are, but they're taking tax dollars and then they're handing them to
Right.
selected people.
Now, when they
And sometimes they're big checks they're handing out.
right, so when they wrote that story,
Yes.
I said, well, personally, I had it, and I know you had too. We had kind of been looking at this organization for a little while, anyhow. But if it appears that the news media is going to take an interest in this, then I'll do my part.
Right.
So I sent a request of information properly by the First Amendment
Format.
guidelines, their format, and requesting copies of their checkbook for a 2-year period. And really didn't know how it was going to go. I will tell you this, that I do know that I sent that on a Wednesday. On a Thursday, there was a meeting of that organization, or at least some members of that organization,
According to reports.
according to reports. On Friday, I got an email that said that within 3 business days that they would give me a response. Now, I will have to say that they did give a response, and I do have 2 years worth of the checkbooks, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But I do want to read. I have in my hands here Florida's Great Northwest, their letter to little old me. Dear Mr. Cooey, this letter serves as Florida's Great Northwest Incorporated response to your public records request of November the 18th, 2009. Your request specifically asked for the check registers for 0708, 08, 09. Whether an entity is subject to public records law is a fact-specific question which requires analysis of several factors as set forth by Florida law. Therefore, Florida's Great Northwest evaluates each public records request on a case-by-case basis based upon the facts and circumstances existing at the time of the request and within the context of any particular request.
Which is interesting because what they're saying is, it depends on the request. The law says you will provide, if you're subject, you provide the records.
Florida's Great Northwest is a private, and we're going to go over these points one by one, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and read it all to you. It is a private, not-for-profit organization which derives the preponderance of its membership revenue from private organizations. Florida's Great Northwest was not created by statute, does not act on behalf of any state agency, and is not controlled by any state agency. Florida's Great Northwest does not utilize staff or other business resources of a state agency or local government, and does not make decisions on behalf of any state agency or local government. Accordingly, Florida's Great Northwest does not consider itself an agency as defined by Chapter 119. As such, Florida's Great Northwest is not generally subject to the provisions of Chapter 119, and Florida's Great Northwest check register, with limited exceptions, is not a public record. However, in an effort to provide a good faith response to your request, enclosed, please find the check registers of Florida's Great Northwest for 07, 08, and 09.